I'm Ann Evans, CEO of Elevate, and I am so glad that you are here. Hello, and thank you for joining us for the celebration of Elevate's 2021 Climate Changemakers. Building on the success of our first event, we decided to go national. In the next hour, you'll get to meet real people on the front lines of environmental justice who are finding solutions to the climate crisis in their communities. As you may know, Elevate wants everyone to have access to clean and affordable heat, power, and water in their homes and communities, no matter who they are or where they live. We're centering equity in the climate conversation, and these climate change makers are part of the plan. Here's Elevator Sylvia Ewing to tell you more.
Thanks, Ann. I'm the Principal Director of Strategic Partnerships and Communications. Climate Changemakers is a free podcast series highlighting leaders in equity work and climate action. The podcast was an idea to pass the mic to others during our 20th anniversary, and we knew it was worth doing again. Climate Changemakers is presented by Elevate and is produced by our friends Damon Williams and Daniel Kisslinger, who make up Ergo Radio. We're excited to showcase our national partners and the elevators who lead our national strategy and programs. We're happy to be joined in this virtual gathering by people from around the country, physically apart, but more connected than ever. The 2021 Climate Changemakers will inspire you. They are Marnese Jackson, Pontiac, Michigan; Nicole Nelson and Valerie Marion, Centreville, Illinois; Leanna Petrone, Portland, Oregon; Neil Whitegull, Ho-Chunk-Land, Wisconsin; Diana Hernández, New York, New York; and Monica Lewis-Patrick, Detroit, Michigan. And each will be introduced by a member of our national team. Here's Maria Quinones to get us started.
Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be here to introduce our first guest and share with you some of the great work that Elevate does. My name is Maria Cecilia Quinones Peña, and I work on Elevate's National Strategic Engagement Team to bring equity through climate action across the country. In the past year, our team has been working on electrifying and decarbonizing buildings in states like Michigan, Wisconsin, and Illinois. Building electrification and decarbonization means getting rid of fossil fuel users in buildings like gas furnaces, boilers, water heaters, and gas stoves. In Michigan alone, we are working with 2 nonprofit affordable housing developers to invest in almost 20 homes. The overall goal of our work is to equitably upgrade buildings, reduce air pollution and greenhouse gas emissions, improve indoor air quality, and avert the worst impacts of climate change. So, with all of that said, I'm happy to introduce our first changemaker, who's a leader in the building decarbonization movement herself. Marnese Jackson lives in Pontiac, Michigan, and is a member of Michigan State Climate Solutions Board, on the leadership team of the Midwest Building Decarbonization Coalition, and a facilitator of BIPOC leadership programs in the climate justice movement. Welcome, Marnese.
So in my employment capacity, I am the co-director of the Midwest Building Decarbonization Coalition, which is a new coalition that started in 2020 to focus on indoor air quality, because we spend a lot of time in our homes. And so a lot of people have gas stoves, they don't have energy efficient homes. And these can be a burden to communities, Black and Brown communities, because indoor air quality causes asthma, respiratory issues. And then you also have high utility rates, and high utility rates can cause an economic issue. So you're getting hit in the health way, which is also an economic issue if you do not have quality health insurance, but then also economic with having high utility rates. So if you want this to be done in an equitable, just quality way, we have to start over. And I understand you want to advance all these policies at the state level, the regional, national level, and then you have all this Biden money coming down, so everybody wants access to that. But I'm like, we can't do anything now because you didn't have people at the table in the very beginning. So there has been some repair and acknowledgement, I have to say, within the coalition spaces that we jacked up. We messed this up, right? And now we're slowing things up. So when I think about communal and collective, it's okay to hit pause and start over. But the thing is, for white people, you have to acknowledge, you have to embrace being human, okay? That you all don't know everything, and that if you want to do equity in the right way, that this is not just a buzzword. You have to actually put some work in. When we come into these spaces as nonprofit members of nonprofits, we're beholden to foundations funding. And so we have to advance what they want to do, which is the sense of urgency. However, they're not looking at the whole spectrum. Like, we can't move that fast. Like, your urgency is not my urgency. When I'm trying to get food on the table, right? I'm trying to work 2 jobs. I'm trying to make sure that I don't have a mental breakdown from being indoors for like the past year because of this pandemic, right? So the struggle is that I don't think people understand their positional power and their privilege when we're in these spaces. And it's hard to make it communal because we're trying to slow things up, but then there's this sense of urgency around acting on climate. Otherwise, we all gonna die, right? So that is the hardest part. And then also fighting against the narrative of Black people, we're always angry. I'm just speaking for us. We're always angry. And then when we get into these spaces, talking about environmental climate justice, building decarbonizations, because it's very, on outside looking in, it's very, you see a lot of white people, right? However, we've been doing this work, right? We've been environmental climate justice activists. We've been trying to conserve our energy simply by telling our kids to turn off the lights because you're not paying on my energy bill, right? So it's like we already been doing this work, but it's kind of like popular now, because there's money behind it.
Good morning. Thanks everyone for joining Elevate today to learn from our climate change makers. My name is Marissa Joyce and I work on Elevate's community resource team. I live in Springfield, Illinois, and as part of the community resource team, I work closely with people in the area to help them make informed energy choices. A critical part of community organizing is listening to the community and hearing their needs, and then working together to co-create solutions. By doing this, we make sure that the community is actively involved, voicing their own solutions for change. One story from my work organizing is that of Pana Pride, a group of concerned citizens working to revitalize and restore Pana, Illinois, a community that was at the center of coal mining in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Pana is struggling to recover from the loss of industry and businesses. And over the past 8 years, Pana Pride has worked to revitalize and restore the town, doing a variety of work on economic development and community outreach. Resilient and enthusiastic, Pana residents are committed to co-creating solutions for change. Thanks for letting me share a little bit about our work. Now I'm so honored to introduce our next change makers. Nicole Nelson and Valerie Marion are 2 of the leading advocates for Centreville, Illinois, where the community has been living in raw sewage for decades. Valerie Marion is a lifelong Centreville resident who is one of the founders of Centreville Citizens for Change, a community group that provides bottled water and other resources to their neighbors. And Nicole Nelson is an attorney with Equity Legal Services, where she works with Centreville residents and litigates on their behalf. Thank you both for joining us today.
They should come and live here just for a while to see just what we go through. How our homes that we've paid for and live in, how they're damaged. I mean, if you've lived in a home for most of your life or whatever, and you know, on a fixed income or whatever type of income you have, you're not trying to go anywhere because that's your home. Most people can't afford to move.
I mean, the flooding and the sewage issues have been happening for at least 50 years, right? So this isn't new. It's just now kind of hitting the media consistently. And so the people who are being forced to be at the table are being forced to pay attention. That doesn't mean that they're still bringing resolutions that are the most equitable or helpful, right? And so, yeah, I mean, it's just a constant push back on that, and that shouldn't be, right? But there are many who, when they moved in the late 60s, early 70s, their neighborhoods were mostly white, and they were the first Black families on their block. It was maintained very well. And I think we all know the story of white flight. And then as the white neighbors moved out, they noticed, and then over the next, 5 years or so, the maintenance, the lack of maintenance, lack of road upkeep, right? The lack of system upkeep, a few things here and there. And then all of a sudden, things just started collectively happening, more flooding, more sewage issues, right? And so that's kind of the backdrop on how those things occurred. We have folks who are in their 80s and 90s and their children in their 50s saying, oh, it's flooded here, and we've had sewage issues since I was a kid, and they're 50 years old, right?
We have residents that come together and we talk about it, and we try to find ways to go to the city to get help, or go to the different agencies and try to get help.
I don't know how you make decisions without the people at the table who things are happening to, right? When we talk about community, I think I've always just been heartened by the fact that they're still showing up, because I know it gets exhausting. I get exhausted and I'm not living it. The work should be community centered, right? It shouldn't be about, it should be about what the community needs. Whenever there are problems in a community, just like agencies or municipal officials, state, county, whoever they are, they craft the solutions they think are needed, and then they take off and they do whatever. But that doesn't work. And so I think the biggest lesson to be learned and to be adapted anywhere is that folks really need to be engaged in communities. I mean, we keep seeing applications and things that are submitted that don't reflect what the community actually wants or needs, and it's just a waste of time and resources.
It just really aggravates me.
Yeah.
When, it really works me up when I talk about it, because I live it. We talk with the legal team, the different ones. We meet with them every other Tuesday so that we can try and get help. We work together. That's the best we could do. That's the best we can do. We are Centreville Citizens for Change.
I'm happy to be here to introduce our next guest and tell you a little bit about Elevate's work in Oregon. My name is James Donnelly, and I'm a member of the National Strategic Engagement Team at Elevate. At about 3 years old, Oregon is one of the newest markets Elevate has engaged in, but faces many of the same challenges as other markets. Similarly, Elevate does a lot of the same work here in promoting electrification and decarbonization in the built environment. A major focus of the first couple of years being helping affordable housing owners and residents to upgrade their properties to a more efficient, comfortable, and healthy place to live. Through a local partnership with the Network for Oregon Affordable Housing and New Ecology, we have worked to assess nearly 1,300 units and have seen upgrades carried through on over 200 of those units. We're also expanding our growing workforce development services out here in Oregon. This year, Elevate began working with the Energy Trust of Oregon as a diversity, equity, and inclusion consultant for the Trade Ally program. In that work, we look to support diverse contractors and build a more inclusive, clean energy workforce in Oregon. We're working with community partners to create an accelerator program to identify, recruit, and support diverse contractor businesses in taking on a bigger role in the clean energy project work in Oregon. This program supports contractors' success directly through training, promotion, and business development, helping to connect contractors to actual projects. At this time, I'd like to introduce one of those partners in workforce development. She's our next change maker, Leanna Petrone, who is a leader in building a more diverse workforce in Oregon. Leanna has served as the executive director of Portland-based organization LatinoBuilt and helped grow LatinoBuilt to provide support specifically for Latino contractors and construction business owners in Oregon to help them grow in the industry. And with that, I'll lead you to Leanna.
So I'm straight out of Portland, Oregon, here in our rainy area. I wouldn't say state, because it really is the Willamette Valley. It is the Portland area that is the most wet. And I am the executive director of an organization called LatinoBuilt. And that's composed of two partnering nonprofit organizations, one trade association that serves Latino-owned construction companies and those support agencies, and then LatinoBuilt Foundation, which is a charitable organization that services all of the Latino community in construction. And we have a big focus on our educational programming as well. If Latinos make up at least 30% just in Oregon of construction itself, whether they're owners, workers, a lot of workers, but nobody is doing anything that's culturally specific for their needs. Yes, there are organizations that focus on minorities, but as we know now, not every minority grouping has had the same challenges or has the same needs. There's a lot of similarities, but not all of them are. So we, or the founding board, had this big idea to have language specific, culturally specific, how we communicate with each other, specific organizations and organizations for those in construction. The need was so there for our community. It took off, and I was there able to get funding and really help with the back end of it, help organize the organization. We didn't need much connection to our community because it was already there. And yes, I do think that I think that the work should be done paired with organizations that are culturally specific. There's been a huge rush into, well, I can create a program to help out, let's say, the white male-owned construction companies have decided that up here, they want to create a program that helps the diverse populations. I don't believe that's the way that it should be led. It should be, if you want to help out diverse populations, if you've seen that they have had that, you need to pair with an organization that services and that is part of those diverse populations in which they're wanting to serve. I'm not sure that we've addressed it so many times, because so many times the government says, oh yes, we've created this program, it's going to help these, but does it really? Have they really dug down into the trenches of who they're serving?
Wow, there's so much more to come, but let's give some virtual applause in the chat to our first 3 changemakers. This season of Climate Changemakers is special because our guests come from all across the country. And that's why we're here too. I'm Angelina, and I lead Elevate's national initiatives. We work across the country and have an on-the-ground presence in California, Oregon, Wisconsin, Michigan, Missouri, and Illinois to enact our mission of equity through climate action.
Hi, I'm Hank, and I lead our work in the Midwest. We're making it easier for building owners to get the support they need to make their properties more energy efficient by establishing building efficiency hubs throughout the Midwest with local partners in Wisconsin, Michigan, Missouri, and Illinois.
In California, we partner with Emerald Cities Collaborative to help affordable housing owners make energy and water efficiency upgrades and add renewables to their buildings, while leveraging all the programs and dollars that are available to help bring down the cost of investment.
We believe that clean, renewable energy is for everyone. We're growing our workforce and small business development programs in Michigan, Illinois, Wisconsin, and Missouri, building a diverse and knowledgeable network of contractors and creating pathways for careers in the clean energy economy.
We couldn't do this work without our partners in each state. These organizations work closely with us and help us listen and connect with the local community to see how we can tailor our services.
And all of this is just some of the work we do. Here's a look at more of what Elevate's work is across the country.
Elevate's mission is equity through climate action. What does this mean? At Elevate, we make sure environmental justice and equity are part of our climate solutions. Elevate wants everyone to have access to clean and affordable heat, power, and water in their homes and communities, no matter who they are or where they live. We know that Black and Brown communities have traditionally been under-resourced and not given equitable access to these vital resources. We work within communities to help people understand the importance of energy, water, and health in their homes. We create jobs to build a more diverse, clean energy workforce and generate wealth for a community. We make sure homes are safe and healthy by removing lead sources and improving indoor air quality. We keep housing affordable by upgrading homes to be more energy efficient. We help homeowners save money on their utility costs while improving their homes. Elevate is looking at how we will need to address climate change where we live now and in the future. And we're testing out the new ideas that will get us there together. Together, we aim to deliver on our mission of equity through climate action.
Hi, everyone. I'm happy to be with you all today to tell you about the work and introduce our next guest. My name is Kate Brown, and I'm part of Elevate's team delivering high-performance housing benefits. At Elevate, we want everyone to have housing that is healthy, efficient, and affordable, and we follow that mission by retrofitting affordable housing across the country. Affordable housing is a big term that covers lots of different types of buildings, like public housing or tribal housing. I want to share with you one project we're doing in Wisconsin, where we're working with the Ho-Chunk Housing and Community Development Agency to add solar and energy efficient features to their tribal housing to make it more comfortable and affordable for residents. Elevate is working with the Ho-Chunk Nation to provide the technical assistance to design and develop 10 innovative energy efficient homes for tribal members. The goals are to create more affordable housing, develop functional and comfortable homes, and to plan a sustainable subdivision with renewable energy plus net zero energy homes. Now I'd like to introduce our next change maker, Neil Whitegull, a housing leader and advocate in Wisconsin who we've been working closely with to make this happen. Neil is the executive director of the Ho-Chunk Housing and Community Development Agency, a nonprofit organization on the Ho-Chunk Nation.
I'm in western Wisconsin, Tomah, Wisconsin, but I guess in our place here, for myself, western Wisconsin, central Wisconsin is where we're at, and representing, working for the Ho-Chunk Nation, Ho-Chunk people. It's a tribe. We call ourselves the Ho-Chunk. Many people used to call us Winnebagos, but that was the French and Algonquin name given to what Ho-Chunks were. But we've always been, our origin story starts us in Wisconsin. And one of one of the neat features of HHCDA, we're Ho-Chunk Housing and Community Development Agency. We're a nonprofit a housing entity. To use HUD's acronym, we're a tribally designated housing entity. And what that means is the HUD, Housing and Urban Development, funds our programs through this bill called the NAHASDA bill. It started in 1999, predominantly to provide affordable housing to Native Americans. Economic opportunities, we have different people coming back. And if you have a reservation that was completely built with HUD housing, and that means you can no longer have any over-income families come back to the reservation because there's no housing availability, there's no loan programs for them, there's no housing programs. Or in a sense, if they income out, say they go to school or they do all the things you're supposed to do, that means no more affordable housing for those people because you can't rent to a person that's over income. Where else are they going to rent? They move outside the reservation boundary where there are rentals and there's houses that they can take mortgages out on. And so you always have this economic drain from your reservations or your Indian areas. And that's one thing I always try to get the word out. I try to make is that because they put Indian housing into HUD housing, I think there was just this disconnect of, well, Native Americans will never be over income.
Right.
So this trust responsibility doesn't apply to just low income Native Americans, it applies to all Native Americans. But to take advantage, and that's where part of what HHCDA has done, to tie into the topic here of solar panels. So we've used basically all of our solar panel development through grants. And even though our solar projects maybe don't make as much sense if you were paying for it yourself out of your own pocket or taking a loan out, because we've turned, I was trying to figure out how many, we've done about 769 kilowatts or systems, and we've individualized them for our low-income families forward. It's not all about the cost of that. That's been kind of on the community education side of sharing that with people, because I don't know necessarily if Native Americans are any better stewards of land, or like a romantic myth, like, oh yeah, exactly. Native Americans are so cool and, and like they're taking care of the land. But what you have is that connection because land is so valuable, and it's almost that ownership side is true. Like we hear Native Americans never really thought they owned the land anyway, that this is just a place that they lived on. And, our houses aren't that wealth. I don't think of my family house as, this is where my grandmother grew up and, it's going to be, she's going to, will it to my mother and my mother's going to will it to me. And, we're going to have this and we can sell it when my mom moves to, Boca Raton, and it's a great investment. It really, a home is different to Ho-Chunks because it's where the family is, so it becomes like this intergenerational home or place. What we've seen, and we're tried, for years and years to develop a sustainable house that has, low VOCs, that has as close to net zero as we can. It doesn't have to just be for the rich. That through common sense building practices and affordable building practices, that's where is our goal. And working with Elevate, that's what we're hoping to do, is to have these same high quality homes built for low income families. And again, if they're low income, for whatever reason, that means saving them whatever we can for utilities, gas, electric, heating, because we're also doing, washing clothes, they're taking baths, they're cooking. To make that as affordable as you can is means one less bill they have to pay, or the ability to pay that bill.
Thanks for being with us here today to learn about these amazing leaders across the country. My name is Margaret Garasha, and I'm part of Elevate's team that researches and tests new ideas and technologies to accelerate climate action. One of our focuses is on environmental health and the relationship between energy insecurity, health, and environmental justice. And much of our approach to delivering integrated solutions like lead abatement, indoor air quality improvements, and reduced energy bills has been inspired by our next changemaker, Diana Hernández. Diana Hernández is a professor of socio-medical sciences at Columbia University in New York, and she's the director of community engagement for the Center for Environmental Health in Northern Manhattan. We were so lucky to collaborate with Professor Hernández in 2019 to help tell the stories of families in Chicago who struggle with energy insecurity. We surveyed homeowners who had either completed or applied but did not participate in a home improvement program. And for a small subset, we were invited into their homes to talk more about how they juggle their energy bills, make trade-offs, and navigate the complex world of energy bill assistance and weatherization programs. Diana brings such compassion and deep knowledge to her work, and so it was an honor to learn from her to help underscore why we need better policies and programs to help address our collective failure to ensure that everyone has access to safe and affordable energy and water in their homes.
So I'm based in the South Bronx, in Mott Haven, and I'm a third generation Bronxite. My grandmother came here in 1940 as part of kind of the initial mass migration into New York City from Puerto Rico, but also the massive out migration from Puerto Rico for economic reasons and for political reasons. And I think in some ways, my connection to the island of Puerto Rico, even though I'm a straight New Yorican, as they say, is in part a reflection of kind of contemporary pressures, right? So there are kind of new pressures too, like climate change, that have very much been pronounced on the island. But you know, the kind of like I'm situated in like a pursuit of opportunity, because that's really what I think my grandmother set forward in her own life. I'm an academic, I'm a researcher, I'm a PhD. And when I was studying in college, I remember reading this book about like kids like me that basically grew up in my neighborhood, and actually like the Diego Beekman houses where my grandmother like spent the better part of her life was the kind of subject of that book. It was written by Jonathan Kozel in 1995. And when I was in college taking urban studies class, like I realized some white journalist was writing about me and was writing about my community. And I think that has really fueled my pursuit of an academic career and research and writing, and really kind of speaking truth from within. So yeah, speaking truth from within, and writing my story and writing the story of other people that are like me. So I have this little plaque by my desk, this, you know, my home office, and my any other kind of professional setting that I'm in, as a constant reminder of the pursuit to write our story, to write my story. You know, in my work, I have been kind of focusing in a little bit on subsidized housing, or I have focused in on existing policies like the low-income home energy assistance program or the weatherization assistance program. And I thought, you know, like as I saw the kind of work unfolding, not that any piece of it was inaccurate, but that it wasn't enough to really understand the breadth of the issue and the kind of emerging challenges of climate change or the clean energy transition, right? I mean, those are also things that make people energy insecure. And it also is something that in some ways isn't just limited to people that are, you know, kind of working with limited economic resources, but that is something that is a lot more cross-cutting, so that any of us could be energy insecure when there's a power outage. So whether the you know, way in which your household energy is impacted has something to do with the externalities of climate change or the clean energy transition, or it has to do with the fact that you don't earn enough to, you know, like pay your utility bills,
I want to be able to recognize all those different pieces and kind of have an umbrella concept that connects them and then connects all of us to the issue so that it doesn't have to always be like those people are dealing with this, but that like we collectively are dealing with this. So we all have to be part of the solution because it's not just isolated to, some group. It really is something that, we're all kind of, it's a risk that we all face essentially.
Peace, everyone. Thanks for being with us here today to learn about these amazing leaders across the country. My name is Brianna Parker, and I'm part of Elevate's policy team that works to maximize the social, economic, and environmental benefits of energy efficiency, solar energy, and clean water through policy. We advocate for policies that help people remove lead service lines and afford water utility bills. We're working to understand the implications of clean water policy and what policy changes mean for our water services and the people we work with. I am really thrilled to introduce our next change maker, Monica Lewis Patrick. I am from Detroit, Michigan, where we understand the importance of water affordability. For over a decade, I've known Mama Monica, as we call her, an elder in my community, and she has mentored me through this work, and I stand on her shoulders. Known as the Water Warrior, Monica is an educator, entrepreneur, and human rights activist who has been at the forefront of the water justice struggle in Michigan and across the country. Monica helped found We the People of Detroit, a community-based organization in Detroit that advocates for a sustainable water future. Mama Monica, we honor you today.
I just think for us, We the People of Detroit, our work is really rooted in what we consider to be the Black matriarch, coming out of that understanding that Black women are the mothers of all civilization, out of that place of belovedness, but also having made tremendous sacrifices for humanity to continue to survive and thrive. And so as we often say here in Detroit, as goes Detroit, so goes Michigan, so goes the nation. And so we've seen this play out over and over again in terms of racial inequities and disparities. The things that are playing out right now in terms of water are deeply connected to the fact that in the 70s, you saw an ushering in of Black leadership, not only in Detroit, but in Chicago and in Baltimore, and many of these urban cores that are now seeing themselves divested from over the last 40 years and struggling with all of these, not only environmental harms and injustices, but economic and structural violence that's playing out in a very real way. So some of that work really was rooted in a conversation I had with my mother in 2014, where we were seeing on average about 40 to 50,000 homes shut off from water annually. And as a master sergeant, she told me in no uncertain terms, she said the shutting off of water is an act of war. Water in Detroit has gone up 438% over the last 2 decades. And what we know, and when you look at the demographics of the city of Detroit, Detroit at one point had 2 million residents. What we have right now is about 725,000 residents, roughly, and that number is shrinking. And then out of that 725,000, 40% of those residents live in abject poverty. And these are the things that our work has really had to center around, is not only lifting from a citizen science lens the data and the research to substantiate these harms, but we're also having to be the persons putting together legislative templates to be able to offer to our legislators things that are equitable and just in their framing, being able to lift up and connect that work to the youth work that is happening, where youth are taking science and innovation and connecting that to policies that are needed. So we believe it's not just one thing, it's everything that's got to be connected. But it was education that started our work, but connecting that to water, justice, connecting it to policy and civil rights, all of those things have come to a head because we know that what we're seeing play out is really austerity. But then it was also, it's at this moment that what we have found ourselves doing is that we have become the experts in our own lived experience. One of the things that Joanne Watson used to say to us all the time, she said, y'all better deputize yourselves because nobody's coming to save you. And so in that declaration, we really embrace that as a mantra, that we're not waiting to be saved. We're not waiting to be rescued. It's through our own intelligence, our cooperative work, the ability to be self-determined, the ability to understand that the fight is not just for us in this present day existence, but as our Indigenous family talks about, we're really building that 7, 8, 9, 10 generation kind of gifting of a community that our children will inherit, and that they can at least know that we were doing a better job than we had done before. And so I really try to practice this belief that I really want to be the person that my mother prays for and is proud of. I want to be the person that my children and my grandchildren, that generations from now, when they just call me Yaya and nobody knows the water warrior or any of those other things that have happened, they'll know that I love them enough to do this hard work and sacrifice to ensure that they all have a right to water, which is life.
We couldn't think of a better spokesperson to thank our honorees and make the connection between our climate change makers, our mission, and the great outdoors. Please welcome Arnold Randall.
Hello, I'm Arnold Randall, the General Superintendent of the Forest Preserves of Cook County. I'm pleased to have the opportunity to congratulate these honorees for their great work. You are heroes working on the front lines in your community, people who are inspiring, people who are worth celebrating. Would you please give a virtual hand or put a message in the chat for the 2021 Climate Changemakers, Marnese Jackson of Michigan, Midwest Building Decarbonization Coalition, Nicole Nelson and Valerie Marion of Illinois, Flooded and Forgotten, Leanna Petrone of Oregon, LatinoBuilt, Neil Whitegull, the Ho-Chunk Land in Wisconsin, Ho-Chunk Housing and Community Development Agency, Diana Hernández in New York, Columbia Mailman School of Public Health, Monica Lewis Patrick of Michigan, We the People of Detroit. On behalf of everyone at Elevate, I've been invited to thank you and best wishes to each of these winners and your organizations. And I want to thank you as well. 3 years ago, the Forest Preserves created our Sustainability and Climate Resiliency Plan. Since then, we have accelerated our commitment to be 100% reliant on renewable energy for our building portfolio by 2030, and to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions to net zero by 2050. That work includes our LEED certified buildings, a new plan to reduce electricity used for outdoor lighting at night, moving toward a green fleet of vehicles and equipment, and most recently, the installation of solar panels to power one of our 6 nature centers. While we still have much to do, we know that for the health of the planet and for the preserves, we must do our part. I applaud Elevate for their work to help people's homes have a minimal impact on the environment while maximizing the positive effects on their health and quality of life. This past year's extreme weather has showed that the ravages of climate change have had a significant impact on our planet. We've seen floods, fire, heat, ice, and other signs that the Earth is out of balance. For the Forest Preserves, climate change is already having a direct effect on our lands, from stormwater to invasive species to changing habitats. We've made the ecological health of our land a priority in the preserves, with more than 15,000 acres under active restoration or management, more than twice as much as a decade ago. For thousands of years, Cook County has been a shifting mosaic of prairie, savanna, open woods, rivers, and bird-filled wetlands. I'm proud that our agency helps preserve these special places, in part because I know firsthand how wonderful it is to visit them. Being outdoors in nature, away from the day-to-day world, has been proven to improve your physical and mental health. That's really no surprise. It just feels good. Growing up, I was lucky that spending time outdoors was part of my childhood. That's not the case for too many Black and brown people in this country. Too often, it's because they don't feel safe or welcome in natural public spaces. And that's another big priority for us at the Forest Preserves, using the lens of racial equity and inclusion to be clear that everyone is welcome in the preserves. If you are in or near Cook County, I hope we see you in the preserves. If you're further afield, I urge everyone to find the natural spaces in your area and to find some time in your life to visit. Let's all keep giving back to the natural world and fight for the health and beauty of the earth. Congratulations again to the Climate Changemakers and Elevate for creating such an exceptional program. Now to say the last few words, here's Elevate CEO, Ann Evans.
Thank you, Arnold. Thank you again, Climate Changemaker honorees. If you have been inspired by their stories, please learn more about these outstanding individuals and organizations and find out how you can help their work. Thanks to the team who made today possible. Thanks to each of you for joining us. If you liked our program, tell a friend and watch it again on YouTube.